Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Yee from TheWrap, and we have three very special guests from RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15 with us today. We have Sasha Colby, Aura Mayari, and executive producer of RuPaul's Drag Race, Mandy Salangsang. Now, Season 15 was a very special season because it was the largest cast in the show's history so far, and a historic one because we had three AAPI queens, including Sasha, Aura, and Anitra. First off, thank you for joining us today, and congratulations on such a groundbreaking season. How has it been looking back? We'll start with you, Sasha, the winner of Season 15.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. It's been amazing to watch the show, to remember all the fun experiences, and really to represent for the AAPI community and Hawaii in special.
Or how about you, looking back on it?
I mean, it just still feels so unreal, I feel like, for myself. Like, I literally, look at myself, on TV sometimes, or even just, things that I would be tagged in online. I'm just like, holy crap, that happened. Because I never thought it would, especially as an Asian American. Somebody who came from the Philippines, that grew up there, that didn't have a lot of things. And if you had told somebody, like that kid, back then, 20 years ago, that you're going to be on TV one day, I would have been like, you're kidding. And so it's super unreal, and I'm really happy and thankful to have been a part of that.
Yeah, and Mandy, for you, both as a longtime executive producer of the show, but also a Filipina, how exciting was it for you to see this type of representation, especially Pacific Islander and Polynesian representation on the show this season?
It was incredible. We at Drag Race do have obviously a legacy of having, a strong AAPI representation across many seasons, going back from, the early days with Raja and Jujubee, Manila Luzon, Kimchi, Plastique Tiara, just to name a few. But to have so many in one season with us in Season 15 to showcase their talents and share their stories and represent who they are, not only as queens, but as AAPI people, was really, really exciting. And it was a great honor and privilege to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, at the Queens, we love to hear their backstories, especially where they come from and their culture. And you guys touched on it a little bit already. Sasha, a native Hawaiian. Talk to me a little bit more about your growing up in Hawaii, and then obviously, how that affected yourself creatively and as a performer.
I think my growing up in Hawaii and being native Hawaiian has kind of everything to do with how I present myself in working situations and on stage. I'm very fortunate to come from a place where it is known as the land of aloha, and we show that, not just say it. And I really wanted to bring that when I came to the show, and anything I do, especially for work, is I was always taught, you remember where you came from, and you be nice to everyone, you treat everyone with respect, and you'll get that back. And thanks to that, I've had a blooming career.
And Aura, from you were actually born in the Philippines and immigrated to the States when you were very young.
Yeah. Quick story. My life now here in the U.S. is totally different from when I was there. We were so poor. We lived in a squatter area by the Manila airport in the Philippines growing up. And I had nothing. But life in the Philippines is even if you didn't have anything, you were always just so happy. We were happy people. We just celebrated what we had. And I never looked at the people that had the riches and said, why don't I have that? Right. But luckily, my dad was able to move us here in the U.S. for one of his job opportunities, brought him here, and finally brought us here as well, which I didn't want to move here. We're like, I don't know anybody there. Why are you moving me away from my family? My grandparents are there. My cousins are there. So we moved here with no family here. Yeah, growing up here, it was a little bit difficult to kind of fit in the language barrier. And also, it's so hard to say this, but also in the Filipino community, there was some discrimination, stuff like that, because I wasn't born here, and I was born in the Philippines, and I wasn't, I was basically a lower Filipino citizen than them. And then, I've been performing my whole life. And I just never thought I would be something bigger than myself. And I was just I can't pursue this entertainment career that I wanted for myself until I found drag. And then Drag Race happened. And it's just been really amazing.
Yeah. I want to dive into the conversation a little bit about entertainment careers, right? Because for a lot of AAPI families, myself included, I'm not even on camera, and Mandy, you're behind the scenes as well. A lot of the conversation is, oh, you don't want to go into entertainment. We're not a showy culture. We want, to do business. We want to do medicine. Those are more traditional careers. Traditional, I say. So did you find that your household was one that encouraged creativity and performance?
Well, not really. I was a performer when I was a kid, and they always knew that. I did musicals, I danced at schools, I did, singing at events and stuff like that. And I always told them, I'm like, one day I'm going to be on TV. One day I'm going to pursue this as a professional career. But as I saw myself, as a viewer, I never saw anybody that looked like me. So that discouraged me. And even auditioning for musicals, even though you could have done better than the other person just because they're Caucasian, they got the part. And so a lot of that really discouraged me to pursue it. So I went to college for nursing. Different, huh? So I went to college for nursing, and I had 1 year left, but I left it because I said, this is not for me. And then I just graduated with something else. And then after college, I found drag, and, that really filled that emptiness that I had with my, with my creative outlets. I was depressed. I didn't know what it was. I went through this sinkhole of just not enjoying my life. I was regretting a lot of my decisions because I didn't follow what I wanted to do, try to accomplish my dreams. And doing drag full time and doing Drag Race was really the pivoting point for me.
Yeah. Sasha, how about you, your family growing up, or your culture? Was it supportive of performing arts?
I think the Hawaiian culture in general is, that's where we carry all our stories. Our history is through dance and hula and mele. Unfortunately, I never had that experience growing up with my Hawaiian culture because my family's very religious. So religion just wipes out any sort of, indigenous culture that is in a family so they can control you. So I was always discouraged from being creative and doing anything secular. You only did it for Jehovah. So I really wasn't given a lot of tools as a adolescence from my parents on how to even do a lot of everyday things, or worry about college, or worry even about having a better career to help yourselves, because we were all just living in the end of days. And I must say that in Hawaii and a lot of indigenous cultures, that particular religion is very prevalent because it definitely goes to people that are disenfranchised and in hope of having more of a better life. And that's the whole thing that they sell. So thank goodness I was just really, really queer. So queer that they're don't come to church, just stay home. It was it was obvious that I was trans. So it was a mixture of my queerness that saved me from that and allowed me to also be creative and start dance. Really getting into dance in Hawaii was a big thing for me. And that's where I got to really spread my creative wings.
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment to do on your own, especially coming from such a religious and kind of myopic kind of community. Or you shared on the show that you actually had a very open community, at least when it came to, having experiences with trans individuals. You said that your mother would invite trans individuals into your home during an episode of Untucked. How was that as a child, having that type of, just diversity in your household?
I knew when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old that I was different. I knew what gay was. I knew what trans was. And what really helped me understand that was my mom. My mom was friends with a lot of trans women back home, and a lot of them didn't have family that, that embraced them. So during the holidays, especially Christmas, they would come over. But the first time I met them, I was like, your voice is different, but you look beautiful. And so I would ask a lot of questions. And my mom would get so embarrassed. Stop asking those questions. But those questions really taught me a lot of things. But at the same time, growing up as a gay person, I didn't know if my mom would accept that. I didn't know if my parents would accept that, right? Because there's people out there that would accept their friends the people that are not related to them and say, yeah, you're okay. Like, I accept you as a queer person, but I don't want that in my family. And so growing up, I didn't know how my parents would feel if I had come out to them. But, you know, like, they were very supportive, and I'm just very, very lucky to have a very supportive family.
Yeah. Mandy,
Yeah.
this was a very special moment in that Untucked episode because it really kind of came off of Anitra talking about how she didn't have contact with her family after she came out as a drag performer. How important it is for you, especially in that episode where it's a tight episode. You know, you don't have a lot of time to tell the story. You have a lot of queens, but these moments of introspection, these moments of revelation, as a storyteller, how important are they for you to kind of capture that?
Oh, I mean, they're everything. You know, obviously, Drag Race is a place for these incredibly talented queens from all over the country with their unique backgrounds and experiences to showcase their talents and skills, yes, but also for them to, in a safe place with their drag sisters, be really open and honest about their unique experiences, their backgrounds, their cultures, and to share with one another and to learn from one another. You know, they all have this art of drag in common, their queerness and those experiences around that in common, but hearing about their unique heritages and cultures and religious backgrounds or whatever they may be, and sharing and learning from one another and having an opportunity in our storytelling to, through their experiences, share those stories with the fans, with the audiences watching. I mean, it's priceless. It's the magic. It's the queens and their stories and their experiences is the heart and soul of the show, really.
Yeah. And I think what's really evident with this trio of queens that you had was it really demonstrates that Asians are not a monolith, right? I mean, we had, you know, literally a queen from Nashville, a queen from Vegas, and a queen from Hawaii. So literally geographically, we have AAPI representation from all over the country, and it is very different. And we have immigrants, we have people that are mixed race, but essentially we're all AAPI, but we all have very different stories to tell. I want to shift a little bit and actually talk about your drag and how your culture influenced that. Aura, your name itself comes from, I believe, some Filipino culture. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's a gay lingo. I don't know if you've heard Filipino gay lingo before. Filipinos can't even understand it. Just the regular Filipinos can't even understand it. They have their own dictionary. But I kept hearing this thing called, like, they would say aura, nag-aura, nag-aura. Like, it's always a video of somebody who's like always like strutting in the streets or being ridiculous, like, and over the top. I was just like, okay, that's funny. And so when I started drag and I wanted to, you know, come up with a name, and I wanted it to, you know, have a Filipino identity to it, and I said, okay, Aura sounds like a nice name, right? And she's overacting, and she's she's kind of over the top a little bit. And then I've always been so obsessed with characters that have like silver hair, and they're typically moon goddesses on animes and TV shows, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, my name is going to be Aura Mayari. But I met a Filipino drag race queen from Drag Race Philippines Season 1, and she told me that she thought my name meant Aura has a penis. Because there's also a whole translation in Filipino that means Aura has a penis. It's Aura Mayari.
Oh my.
And I said, okay, well, that's another story. Well, my name sounds nasty, but yeah, it works both ways.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up anime because, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, thought your looks were inspired by anime. And the interesting thing about anime and Japanese culture is that there actually are transgender characters in a lot of animes. I think one of the most popular ones is Sailor Moon in America. And some of the characters in that show were actually transgender. And in the States, when they redubbed it, they made them, you know, cisgender. So I think the thing about Asian cultures, and this is very true in Polynesian cultures as well, is, and I'd love to kind of explore this later with you, Sasha, with the whole Mahus, you know, culture, is that there is transness in Asian cultures. There is, you know, third genders and you know, non-binary genders. And I think it's really great that you guys bring that into your performance art but also learn it as people, you know, and representatives of the culture. Sasha, when you had your entrance look, you had a goddess look. So obviously, we have this, theme running through your drag as well. Talk to us a little bit about how your culture influences your current drag.
I love just a strong woman in general. Like, I love the idea of making people feel empowered when they watch me, even when it gets down to like your vulnerability. So I think for me, my entrance of being a tattooed warrior goddess moment was really important because one, it was the blending of masculine and feminine. It had these, the Sasha Colby nakedy, sexy transness in your face. It told a story for me, and bringing my Hawaiian culture to me, or to that stage, knowing that in Hawaiian culture where you put your tattoos, it's very sacred. There's ceremonies about it. Usually people get big tattoos when it's to mark a big thing in their life, a death, a marriage, a birth. So when we put these things and we put them in certain places, it's actually marking a point of transition. And what was perfect for me was a trans person who is in transition and showing everyone else how, even with tattoos for not just trans people in Hawaii, but for all Hawaiians, having a tattoo was saying, yes, we are all in transition in life. So we just happen to do it a different way. We do it more on the outside, but we are all figuring this out together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the idea that you brought up on the show of Mahu, right? And I mentioned it before. And can you talk a little bit more about that and explain how this very kind of Hawaiian concept applies to your life today and other trans people, not just Hawaiians?
Mahu is it's a word like how queer was probably in the 70s and 80s. It was used against the people that they were describing, but really it's a word of description. It was saying that it was both. We have Mahu Kane, which is technically a trans man, and Mahu Wahine, which is trans woman. And that was just something to identify someone who wanted to be represented and wanted to be addressed with respect. We knew that so many centuries ago. So it's nice to see this collective awakening that we're all having of understanding that we're not just in the binary. But the term mahu was definitely used against me as a kid. Like, oh, you mahu, that would be a teasy word. That would be a word that would usually make me cry. And then I met my mahu family. Then I, graduated, went to the drag shows, met the aunties and uncles, all the queer people in Hawaii. And there's so many trans people, trans men and trans women in Polynesian culture. So like in Hawaii, someone in your family is trans. Someone is that you are close with or even grew up with is trans. So that's always kind of been there. It's just very interesting and very cool that I get to show the ease of that in drag, especially with this whole thing of like not knowing where to put trans people in drag. Like a lot of trans people don't want to do drag as well. Like trans women some of them don't want to do drag because they don't want to even speak a voice into their pre-transition life. And everyone has their right to do so, but I just think of drag now, especially, it is shown and celebrated as an art form that is not about what your gender is. Drag is for everyone. Drag is just an art form of creativity. I mean, you see these celebrities, they're doing drag every day. I mean, come on, J-Lo, Beyonce didn't do drag.
Very that. Well, one of the guests this season was Ali Wong, and she was here for the comedy challenge. And she made a comment in passing as she was kind of helping, with the mentorship about how she was waiting for the Asian queen to come out. And there is something about seeing a familiar face on the screen. Or you were saying this before as well, like not seeing that growing up. Being a figure now, representing your culture on television in such a big program, how has the reaction been from your community? Or let's start with you.
Like joining this competition and this show, I knew I was going to make an impact somehow, but I didn't really understand what what huge of an impact it was going to be until the announcement and the premiere. I've gotten so many hundreds and thousands of messages just from Filipino people just thanking me, and it's just so like there's so many, like some of them are so long I like wanted to cry multiple times. It's just like so amazing to see and hear from my community saying like how proud they are that they're able to see somebody that looked like them on TV, that anything can be possible for them as well. And I love sharing just like my story, just growing up, and like it's wild. It's still wild for me to think.
Sasha, how has the reaction been from your community?
My community, I mean, the Hawaiian community in general, it just kind of explodes too. I think someone like myself who's from Hawaii, which is a melting pot already, someone who's Polynesian particularly, so I get a lot of messages from, Samoan Fa'afafine queens, Tahitian, New Zealand. And then there's the actual Asian communities, like a lot of Filipinos can see themselves in me, even if I'm not necessarily Asian, of Asian heritage, growing up and being around so many different cultures. It allows people to identify with me, which is really, really special. And I just feel like it's such a privilege to be able to show the beauty that we all are.
Yeah. And Mandy, this is what the beauty of the show is all about, right? You drop some of the names of some of the, I don't want to call them the ancestors, but the queens that have really made a mark earlier. We talked about Jujubi, who's Lao. We talked about Raja, who's Indonesian. These are not cultures that are typically seen in mainstream media, Asian cultures that are typically seen in mainstream media. We have Kimchi, who's Korean. So as a storyteller, that must be very rewarding, especially as a member of that culture too.
Representation is, of course, so important, right? In media to just promote understanding and appreciation and respect for the various different cultures. And you said up top, I mean, in the AAPI family, if you will, there are 50 to 100. There's 100, I think, of various Asian cultures. But just to promote understanding and to combat any, misperceptions and prejudice, and really try to foster a real appreciation for these rich cultures that are, that are as old as time and are so full of pageantry and tradition and storytelling that, to be able to be a forum, a platform for queens of such diverse backgrounds to come together and share that with us, with the world, is remarkable, really.
Yeah, very much so. My next question for you is, what do you still feel like you can learn about your culture? Aura, let's start with you, or explore.
Oh, I mean, I would love to explore just the geography itself and the beauty that Philippines has to offer. I mean, we didn't have money, right? So when I was there, I was just in my neighborhood, just chilling in the street, But seeing a lot of these, videos on pictures of my beautiful country that I never got to explore, it sucks to realize that I haven't really explored my country. And so I would love to go back there. And as you know, Philippines has so many islands, so many different cultures in each island, different languages. And I don't even know 80% of what my country is. So that's something definitely I would love to explore.
Sasha, what about you? What do you still want to learn or delve into with your culture and your heritage?
I think with this platform, what I'm currently doing is really trying my hardest to let my voice be of some use to my culture, my community. And I've been fortunate to work with, and I actually got to speak at a seminar with former governors of Hawaii and the current lieutenant governor of Hawaii, council members, Senate representatives for Hawaii. For the Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement, I got an award from them for being a trailblazer in the Native Hawaiian community. And I got to speak on issues and actually listen to the issues that are pertaining to our culture right now. As of right now, the latest census is that we are officially displaced from our land, Native Hawaiians. There's now more living in LA and Las Vegas than in the the actual land of Hawaii. And we're exploring that. We're exploring how that we can still have our heritage even if we're not there, because I mean it's such a big, overwhelming thing to try and battle the fact that we're running with money, and that's all that right now people are seeing. So how do we hold on to our culture? How do we hold on to these precious practices that we need to? Because at this point now we are not our land, which is really hard for a Native Hawaiian to come to grips with.
Yeah. When you lose that physical grounding, it just makes it even harder to kind of keep those traditions alive. And I think that's very commendable that you're putting that work in. And for Aura, I think it's commendable that you recognize that there's a lot to still learn about, because the Philippines is very diverse and there are many different subcultures within that group. I hope you have the chance to go visit and return and learn more. My final question for everyone is, drag is something that you can, quote unquote, turn off. You can de-drag, but being Asian isn't. You're always presenting as Asian. How do you embrace that, knowing that you can be both Asian and a drag queen?
I think I have this like weird thing, just like this vortex that I'm in, where I look very ethnically ambiguous. So I can get away with like people not realizing my culture right by looking at me. So I have to be a little more vocal about it, and a little more presentative about it, and really wear it, because I'm not what maybe the typical Hawaiian is supposed to look like to people.
I think I just pull from a lot of Filipino references into my drag. A lot of queens really, it's not just about the glitz and glamour for me. I try to be a representation for myself. And I just find it fascinating that I'm able to use my culture to, explore my creativity even more and share that to people.
Yeah. And Mandy, we'll give you the last word here. Obviously, you have wonderful diversity on the show across the board, whether it's, racial identities, gender identity, sexual identity. How does RuPaul's Drag Race continue this legacy of fostering and highlighting, these various cultures that we don't necessarily see? And as we've shown, even within the AAPI community, there's a lot of variety and difference.
Well, I think that what is so exciting about drag is its reach. The vast, the various and broad swath of people who it appeals to, who are inspired by it. And so it helps us season after season to reach this really diverse and multicultural and individually unique group of talented young performers who want to come and participate on the show, who want to have an opportunity to showcase their talents on the show. And so it just has such a broad reach that these queens, as young talents who want to come and participate, they come from so many various walks of life. They come ready to share their stories that are so unique and so varied, that I think in continuing to do the show, we'll continue to reach as many and have an opportunity to tell as many stories, if that makes sense. It's kind of it's a really healthy cycle, I think, in that way.
Yeah, and it's a cycle that, again, brings in new perspectives every season. We haven't had a Polynesian queen until this season. And, even amongst the two Filipino queens that we had, they have very, very different life stories. So thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of you for sharing your experiences on season 15 and with us today. You can check out Sasha, Aura, and the rest of the season 15 queens of RuPaul's Drag Race now in 90-minute episodes on Paramount+.